Hey guys, Chris Dimino at 680 The Fan. Just wanted to let you know, if you don't know, I started a podcast. There it is right there. That's the logo you're going to see on any podcast provider. It's called Hardball, and as you can read, Major League Baseball history in first person. This is about a 20-year project. I started these interviews in the very early 2000s with some names of players who you know, a bunch of Hall of Famers, maybe some people you don't know but who have stories to tell. Guys like Eldon Alker, who played in the 30s, Tracy Stallard, Ernie Coy, and then of course some of the big names, and I'll give you an example coming up in a second. It's real simple. You can go to any podcast provider you have. Just look up in the search part Hardball. If you get an opportunity to listen to an episode, download an episode, maybe 1, 2, 3. If you enjoy it, please spread the word. We are going completely grassroots on this, so that means one of the reasons I'm doing this is I'd like for you to hear some of these gentlemen's stories because they're not going to be told again. A good amount of them have actually passed away in the time that we did these conversations. I can also tell you that one of the things that I guess helps in the podcast world, I don't know much about it, is rating, reviews. If you found you had an interest in it, great. Maybe you take that next step. More than anything, I'm really hoping, because these gentlemen are fascinating, not just from a baseball point of view, but really about America's social history as well. I'll give you an example of who we actually have spoken to in the first 6 episodes. Stan Musial, one of the greatest players of all time, started the whole thing off. I don't think you have to be a Cardinals fan to want to hear the story of Stan Musial. Phil Rizzuto, who at 83 years old had shut it down, did not do any interviews. Took me a year and a half to set this one up. I got to tell you, funny, sharp, reflective. I really enjoyed this. This is my top 5, 6. If I have a category like that, Phil Rizzuto would be in it, especially as a guy who grew up in the Northeast. Don't have to be a Yankee fan, but he was there for over 7 decades of Yankee heroics and world championships. We go to George Brett, a little bit more modern. In the mid-'70s, George Brett became one of the best hitters in baseball. He found himself walking into the Hall of Fame a number of years later. Speaking of tough guys, the guy wearing the number 27, that's Carlton Fisk. He was on an episode. That Thurman Munson guy, he tells the story of a fight between those two. I can tell you, Vince Scully, I really enjoyed speaking to, especially growing up in a house where my dad was a big Brooklyn Dodger fan. This was a pleasure and a joy to hear him talk about his big break and then certainly his relationships with those Dodger players. And we just put one up by Monty Irvin. He is a Hall of Famer, I promise. If you do nothing else, listen to this one. The Negro League stories, what Monty Irvin put up with, and maybe more than anything else, if you don't understand what 3 years in World War II in Europe did to this man's career, he will tell you. He will also tell you how he could have been Jackie Robinson in the Jackie Robinson role of breaking the color barrier. I hope you find it enjoyable. I hope you actually get a chance to tune in. Find Hardball Podcast wherever it is you might find a podcast. If you listen, great. If you're a baseball fan, you know some baseball fans, if you can spread the word, that'll be fantastic. It's just me, you, and a couple of social media things that are getting this out. I hope you do find it enjoyable. Thanks very much.